On paper where the story's told, facts and truth, the legend grows. Lionheart's here with fire to spit. It's on paper with Anthony Smith.
With Anthony Smith.
All right, guys, welcome back in, and I have a special guest. We have Big John McCarthy. I have known this guy my entire career, and I'm super excited I'm super excited just to be honest with you, man, to have just a cool conversation. I think
love to.
As an analyst, you know, I find myself in these positions a lot where you're getting asked questions on air, and I think I know the answer, but I don't always know the answer. And I think that we've had a couple real funky ass situations lately. And to be honest, I kind of want to know the answers to them, and I don't know anybody else better to ask.
I hope I have the answer. I'm not sure I do, but you know, we'll try. We'll try.
Well, and really, they're very specific situations, but I want to have like a conversation kind of around some of those situations. And obviously, I actually reached out a couple weeks ago for the exact same reason. It was just like a funky situation that was confusing, and I kind of just wanted the answer, or at least what you believe the answer would be. So, but now we have another big one, obviously, in the Aspinall-Gane fight.
What are you talking about? There was never a problem.
oh man, I haven't looked at the comments, but I hear that people are not being very nice to me. But to I guess just to set it up for the viewers, Ciryl Gane, eye pokes Tom Aspinall. Aspinall can't continue. Fights a no contest, and the whole world is on one side or the other. But from an officiating standpoint, how did you believe that was handled, and what do you think the correct, I guess the correct way it should have gone, or what's that process look like, or how do you teach people to deal with that issue?
Sure. You know, and like you said, we've had quite a few instances kind of happen in the last couple of weeks, because you can go back, before I get to the Ciryl Gane thing, you can go back to Vancouver, and we had, you know, I think there was a groin shot with one of the lower preliminary fights, and the referee of it was a guy I actually taught. His name's John Cooper. He's a great guy. He's very calm. He knows the sport. He's fought. He is, you know, still practicing jiu-jitsu all the time. And he made the call of taking a point based upon exactly what I had taught him is, look, there's this thought pattern with fans that a referee must warn. First off, the referee does not have to warn. Okay. What we have to do is have enough common sense to say the taking of a point in a fight is a serious thing that can really affect the fight. And we've had all kinds of, you know, people with all their ideas as far as, oh, you should take a point for everything that happens. And it's like, if we did that, the fans wouldn't be very happy. The promotions wouldn't be very happy. The fighters would not be happy. And so you've got to try to adjudicate things in a systematic fashion that makes sense. So John Cooper, in that, for instance, you had someone get hit with a groin shot. It was Drew Dober, who I love as a fighter. You know, he was the one that committed the infraction. Now, do I believe that he intentionally did it? No, I don't. But I do believe that what he did absolutely affected his opponent, put his opponent in a diminished capacity compared to what he is now in, and made it to where he gained an advantage based upon a foul. You don't want that to happen. And the way to level that playing field is kind of what we talk about is, if I have to take the point based upon how severe it was, because you go off of not just the fighter's reaction, because look, fighters are going to cheat. That's okay. That's, you know, part of the game. But you know, one of the things that, you know, people will never understand, the UFC sometimes kind of gives them that, you know, perspective when they'll say, hey, listen to this. Well, that's what the referee hears. You hear things that nobody else in the stadium hears. You know, you hear the conversations with the fighters because you talk, you know, and there's all those things going on. And there's also the sound of a cup being hit, and you can hear it. And that information about how loud it is, how forceful it is, and the reaction of the fighter based upon what you heard all tells you, okay, he got hit really good. Okay, he got nicked. You know, you're gonna hear the differences. So, you know, in that position, John Cooper took a point. It was the right thing to do. Then later on in the fight, we can look, and Kevin Holland gets hit.
Well,
with
wait. I do have a question before we go on. I
Let's
don't mean to
go.
cut you off, but I
Not at
probably
all.
will a bunch because I want to jump in. Is there a reason that the referees won't deduct a point until the fight is about to be restarted?
Yes, that's because, and again, you can blame me because I'm one of the ones that teaches. You can blame Herb. He's one of the ones that teaches or got it. We tell the referees, look, I don't want you to make a decision about anything until you have all the information. How do you know what is going to occur when the foul just happened? You don't. You have no idea. So I don't want you quickly going and grabbing that person and taking a point, because first off, you don't know all the information that you need to make the best decision on what you're going to do. And sometimes the fight is not going to go on. And so the taking of the point is not part of something that we're going to equate into it, unless there's certain criteria that we see that, I do need to take a point based upon something. And that's something that can happen, but we don't take the point until we know exactly where the fight is going to go. Is it going to restart? Okay, I'll take the point and then restart the fight. Is it going to be that this fight is finished and it's not going to go anymore, but we've entered the third round, and that blow has an effect in a fight that, it affected so much of what this person did, throughout it. I might end up taking a point off of it before we go to the scorecards. And so everything is, don't be in a rush. Don't be fast. Be smart, be calm, and take all the information you can before you make those decisions.
Okay, so and so you were getting ready to get into
and
Kevin
so
Holland situation.
You can take a look at Kevin Holland.
Well, it seemed like the Kevin Holland shot. It seemed like the one that Drew Dober delivered.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just being honest here, just as a fighter on the outside.
Yeah,
seemed like a way harder fucking shot. But the impact seemed to affect Kevin. Kevin didn't seem like he took as hard of a shot, but it seemed to impact him more.
And I totally agree with you. But because you've been hit there, I've been hit there. As far as even when you're wearing a cup, there are times when the cup gets moved in a way, especially when it's up.
Yeah.
Okay. Or sometimes to a side, just, let's just say
like a brushing shot could be way worse.
Oh yeah. Because it can hit, that testicle in the way that it absolutely squashes it. And you're like, mm-hmm. And you've got that cramping, that's going off, and it doesn't subside. Normally it subsides fairly quickly and stuff. And we can say, okay, I'm going to be all right. And you see guys that'll jump up and down and stuff. Okay. Whatever makes it right for you. But, I've seen cups broken. There's times when people really get hit and the fans think, oh, he's faking. And it's like, no, dude, this guy got whacked, and we have, I've even seen instances where, the person was taken to the hospital based upon that, because, they ended up having a serious problem based upon just the way the cup ended up hitting them. It didn't go straight into them. It moved in a way that moved up or something. That's why, I've always told guys, hey, if you're going to wear a cup, look towards a Muay Thai cup. It's stays as good as anything does, and it's metal, and so it's not going to collapse on you, and these things can happen. So when you take a look, you can look, and I agree with you. I think that Drew Dober was a harder hit, but I don't know how I can't say, and you can't say how it landed and affected the fighter. Obviously, I look at Kevin Holland as someone who is he is a guy that will fight anybody anywhere. Basically, he's similar to you, and that he doesn't make excuses. He doesn't sit there, and he doesn't in any way try to get by on something. This is a guy that sometimes I'll go, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
And he was.
That's a guy that fought Wonder Boy with one hand for most of the fight. It never said shit about it. So
absolutely,
he
that's
couldn't hide
exactly it. And fought Wonder Boy at Wonder Boy's fight when he had the ability to take him down at times, and it was like, what are you thinking? That's right. Okay. It's his fight.
He's tough. That's what we're getting
incredibly tough. And so, the fact that it went to 5 minutes, but in the end, that was a second groin shot within a very short amount of time. There was no point taken. That's where we're looking, and people are going, I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we as officials and as the community, as far as the regulatory bodies and everything, we need to start looking into saying, okay, we've given you too much as far as as referees, we are what's called the sole arbiter. meaning we are the ones that make the decisions in the fight. Now, we've done things on the outside to try to help that. Things like we have the replay official now. You know, in the UFC, it's a common thing, not in all small shows or anything like that. So we'll use what we call polling the judges or things like that for information. But in the UFC, a fantastic thing that was added, it was added by the Nevada State Athletic Commission and Jeff Mullen is, you know, and I helped work on him with it. And it was a great idea. Let's put someone on the outside with the video that can signal when something has occurred or if it didn't occur, because there's times there's no way, and everyone, you know, doesn't understand, there's no way for the referee to see everything because you're not always looking at everything. You know, if you're fighting somebody and you're doing well, I don't look at you. I hardly look at you at all. I look at the guy that you're beating up because he's my problem. Okay. I can see the things that you're doing, but I'm not really looking at you so much. And then all of a sudden, you know, something comes out and all of a sudden you're turning and going, damn, my eye. And I'm thinking, shit, I didn't see that. Let me go to that replay official and get the right information on this. Was it a punch? Because if it was a punch and it was a knuckle that hit your eye,
we keep fighting.
That is part of the game. You're gonna have to keep fighting. You know, if it was a kick and it was the toe that hit your eye, it's legal. You know, you're gonna have to keep fighting or we're gonna stop the fight and you're gonna lose. So, you know, we don't always, you know, see everything. We try, but we're human. We're not going to. So, you know, we need those outside things to help us be better. And so that's one of the things that has happened. But one of the things that I'm looking and we're going to have to start talking about is I've always liked the fact that I have black and white as far as the rules. And then I have the gray that's in between that I can use to manipulate those rules so it works for what I say, what's best for the fighters, what's best for the fans, what's best for the sport, what's best for this promotion. Because sometimes, you know, all that is what you really should be looking at.
I think that gets missed sometimes. The promotion is last.
Absolutely, it gets missed,
which means it doesn't actually matter.
Well,
like,
you know,
we're not really talking. Like, there's a lot of other steps before that's a consideration.
And I always say, you know, look, what's best for the fighters. That's the number one. What about the
timing in the Kevin fight? Because I think that's where it got a little weird too.
Again, you're allowed 5 minutes. You know, and let's, you know, we can be honest. You know, Mark Ratner came out and said, "Hey, you know, the referee made a mistake," and it was Dan. Look, and I love Dan Merglana. He's a great guy.
He's done a great job.
You can't have certain things go past, and you look and you say you had 5 minutes. As soon as that 5 minute mark hits, that fight is over.
Yes or no, right?
Yes, because there was a foul. Now, there's times in a fight where you can have it go past the 5 minute mark. We'll talk about, like, you know, you and I are fighting and you have me up against the cage and we turn and your glove just tears. Okay. Right. That's not a foul. You didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. And it's going to take it ends up taking 6 minutes and 32 seconds to fix that glove. That's okay. I can restart the fight. But on a foul, I have 5 minutes.
Right.
And that's why you'll see referees when it's getting close, they're going to be starting to say, hey, you've got 30 seconds. It's 4 minutes and 30 seconds. We got to get this fight going. Can you fight? And they start trying to, because I do have to get that fight started. If it goes past the 5 minute mark, I am supposed to end that fight. It is over.
Yeah, I think that's one of the situations where Kevin Holland did Kevin Holland, where he kind of he gamed it a little bit.
Maybe,
which is whatever.
But that's okay. And all that, like, that's on Kevin. Can do what he wants. If it gets to the point where he's doing that, then Dan needs to go, all right, we're done. And I'm going to call this fight right now and say that it's going to come to a no contest based upon, I don't believe that he ended up doing that intentionally. And this is another thing that, you know, we need to really start looking at is this whole thing with, if you look at MMA as a whole and you look at the fouls, 99.99999% we say it's accidental. And it is, because there's not a true intent to foul. It just, you're throwing a technique and it ends up, there's bodies in motion at times, everything changes. And you have those where the foul occurs, but there was no intent behind it. And then we have intentional fouls, and those are handled differently, but we don't call those very often. Right. And then there might come a point where we need to look and say, hey, I brought up a thing called reckless actions. And, you know, I can sit here and tell you this. I can tell you fighters that push the envelope on being legal or not legal. You were, look, you never did that. You were always
Right. Keep it
straight,
clean.
super
Right.
clean, no problems.
Because I'm inside my head the whole time. Like I'm focused. But
Yeah.
we know guys that
Oh, they'll push that envelope as much
yeah,
as
well, that's
possible.
stupid. Like I just see red thing,
Yeah.
and I don't know that they're intentionally fouling, but they're not intentionally staying within
But
the
they're
rules.
reckless.
Right.
And that's where I think we might need to go into, look, when someone is reckless in their actions, it doesn't matter what their intent is. You know, we have unintentional, you and I come together and we clash heads. That's not a headbutt. That's an unintentional clash of heads.
Mhm.
Okay. That is something that you caused, I caused, just based upon our movement. There's no fault in any direction. It could end the fight. It could be that, you cut me bad and, you have no mark at all, but I can't go on in the fight. And so it's not fair for me to lose the fight. It's not fair for you to win the fight. We're going to say that, this is called, unless it's in the last round of a 3-round fight or in the going in the 4th round of a 5-round fight. So there's things that are set up there for us to try to deal with it. But, right now we're putting it on the referees to say, well, do you think that was intentional? Well, most of the time they're going to say, no, I don't think it was intentional. I don't think he meant to do it. But there comes a point where you've got to start making people, basically responsible for their actions, because we have certain people that, they are reckless in the way they fight. They do things at times that you go, hey, you're crossing the line. All right. I understand that, you're going after him and he's hurt and you're wanting to just finish it. That doesn't equate to you being able to do anything you want.
Right.
And so those are the things that I think we need to start looking at. And, the eye poke thing is a serious problem that I think also needs to be looked at.
Well, okay. So here, I don't want to. I was iffy if I was even going to bring it up, but
Because you want, go ahead.
Well, it's because I love Dan Lagranata.
Okay.
I think he is a fantastic ref, and
He is.
not too many times that we see him in any kind of heat, or even mess up. It's just anytime that he walked into the locker room was going to be my referee, I was a sigh of relief because I know I could trust that guy. I know that he's going to be
awesome.
fair and he's going to stay out of the way.
Yeah.
But I really want to talk about the situation. It just happens to be he was in the one in it. So if he happens to see this isn't about you. I have sang your praises.
Yeah.
But it was the weird, also Vancouver, where the fight was stopped a couple seconds early. We all thought it was a finish.
Yeah.
Turns out the bell was, it was still 3 seconds till the end of the fight.
Yeah.
It could have been a situation where if he had just stopped it, I'd been fine with it because, he was in a bad way.
Yeah.
How do you remedy that? Because there had to be a moment where Dan realized, I fucked that up.
And
so now do you let, how do you decide whether to let it continue, or the guy that was very near being finished, because if you stop it, then that guy's gonna be pissed.
Yeah, he is.
Mafrovola is gonna be like, no, I had 3 more seconds. Maybe I would have recovered. I don't think he was going to. I think the 3 more seconds, I think Dan would have just stopped it, but
possibly could have gotten worse.
Right. So how do you remedy that once you make the mistake and Dan says, all right, I fucked that up? How do you remedy that in the moment? Was that the right call?
Well, see, and you look and you go, in the moment, he stopped the fight based upon him saying he heard a horn, because there's the horn, there's a bell in certain promotions, but the UFC uses a horn that comes out, and I can tell you, there's things that have happened, to me that I ended up coming up with. I always say, look, we're all going to make mistakes. It's just part of being human. But if you make the mistake, you've got to be honest about it. You got to sit there and say, I screwed up. I made a mistake. Don't make an excuse. Once you say, I made a mistake, okay, how did you make the mistake? What was it that caused that mistake? Now that we know, okay, this is what caused the mistake, then how do I remedy it so it doesn't happen again? And I'll give you for instance with, and it wasn't really a mistake of mine at the time, and I've made plenty, I'm not saying, but at the time, this wasn't one of them. But, the first time that Chuck Liddell fought Tito Ortiz, it was at UFC 47. And if you watch the end of the first round, Chuck's starting to really go after Tito. He's hitting him with big shots. Tito's starting to really cover up, and he's starting to have some problems in it. And the crowd just erupted, right? And I knew that I had heard the 10-second clacker.
Right.
And it was just about, in that time. And at the time I wouldn't do anything by hearing it. I wouldn't, any, no motions, nothing. And when it gets to the point that happens, I'm counting in my head, just like every referee should be counting in their head, either counting forward or backwards, 1 to 10, to give you an idea when I need to come in so I can get myself in between the fighters. Close. Yeah. So there's not a punch that's thrown that alters the fight after the bell or something like that. So, all of a sudden, I'm down to 1, 0, 1, stop, because I didn't hear anything. It was so loud. You couldn't hear that. And at the time, it was a little air horn. They didn't even put it over the speakers. And so you couldn't hear it. And Tito thought I stopped the fight on him. That was when he says, no, I'm fine. And I said, it's the end of the round. Right. But I realized, hey, I need to make sure that, I signal the timekeeper that I know that there's only 10 seconds left. So most of the referees now do it. They all followed suit, and you hear that 10-second, you're going to see the referee just point in the direction of the timekeeper. That's allowing the timekeeper to know he heard it. If he doesn't get that point, he's supposed to bang those things hard again. Right. So we have an idea that the end of the round is coming up.
So you kind of got lucky.
I got lucky.
It ended up not being a mistake. But
yeah, that wasn't a mistake, but I knew, this could lead me to a mistake.
Right.
And so I've got to start to figure out, okay, what do I do? Well, the whole thing with Dan thought that he heard the horn, but he should, and I'm not saying I know that he should be counting, and he should have been somewhere into saying that he was at either 3 or 2 seconds left in his count, which would tell him that's probably not right.
Right.
But
in the moment, he's also probably trying to pay attention because
absolutely
is maybe one shot.
And he's looking, am I going to let this go on? I'm trying to let him get to the end of the round, but should I? And all this is going through his head. And
there's
so
a lot happening.
That's why he hears something.
Right.
That's exactly why.
That's way different. Like if there's no action happening.
Yes.
And it was Kyle Nelson, who's a Canadian.
Yep. And the crowd is going nuts.
Crazy.
There you go.
I mean, I'm sympathetic to it. Like, because I know that he's trying to figure out, am I going to stop this fight? I know it's really close.
Yes.
But is it fair to let him make it to the end of the round? Is it fair to the fighter on top?
That's right. And it's,
you got to finish.
You got to
just because we're close.
You got to say, stop worrying about the time.
Right.
Should the fight be stopped, or should the fight be let to go?
Yeah, some referees I think probably would have stopped it, but there's some that I know for sure. I know for sure there's some that would have let it keep. That would have not stopped it right there in that.
And you can look in there. There's been great calls by Dan not stopping fights at times. People can go back to the Czech Congo versus Pat Barry, where everyone said, stop the fight. And then it just turned around. Now, I'm sure Pat Barry would have been very happy if he stopped the fight and doesn't like Dan for it, but this is what happens, and you're never going to make everyone happy.
That's a man that was clearly able to fight.
Yeah, well,
he was able to continue. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Black Buffalo products are intended for adults aged 21 and older who are consumers of nicotine or tobacco. If you're 21 or older and use nicotine or tobacco, it's time you charge ahead and join the herd with America's only credible smokeless tobacco alternative, Black Buffalo. Now available at thousands of best-in-class retailers like Wawa, Circle K, Sheetz, Love's, Pilot, Racetrack, and more. Black Buffalo was established in America in 2015 to honor the ritual and tradition of dip without the tobacco leaf or stem. Black Buffalo's long cut and pouches are made of barn-cured leafy greens that dip and feel like traditional products, all with food-grade ingredients and USP-grade nicotine. You're in good company with the Black Buffalo herd. Brand ambassadors like MMA Hall of Famer Cowboy Cerrone, professional race car driver Ryan Blaney, and country music star Larry Fleet all proudly dip Black Buffalo tobacco alternative, an American brand built on authenticity and respect. If you're looking for a real dip experience, long cut or pouches, go to blackbuffalo.com to join the herd. Use their store locator to find a retailer near you or ship products directly to you in most states. Black Buffalo tobacco alternative. The future of dip, honoring the past. Okay, before I keep you too long, because I lied and told you 15 minutes. And
that's all good, man. Don't worry about it.
Saturday night, obviously we got Aspinall gone. We all know what happened. I don't know how that should have gone, I guess, because I'm just finding out that as things go and change, and we see a lot of, just as the sport continues, there's more and more scenarios, and all of them have their little nuanced changes and differences. How did you think it was handled, and if there was something that should have been different, what was it?
No, as far as the handling of the actual incident, it was handled correctly. Jason did a great job. when you have the
God,
iPhone,
that guy's good too, and I want him to be bad because I like fucking with him, but I never have anything to fuck with him about because he's pretty good.
Unfortunately,
He's too good.
he's too smart to make mistakes. I mean,
I know it.
and then, look at this. One of the things, I always say, hey, when someone's really smart as a referee, that helps the fights because they can think about things. They don't get overwhelmed by stuff. And Jason's one of those guys. And Jason is a phenomenal, obviously one of the top referees out there. And he did a great job in this instance. He did everything that he could do within the rule set to try to, hey, let me give you time. Let me give you the wet rag. All these things that we've tried, before, hell, when you first started fighting, you weren't allowed to have a wet rag. You got poked in the eye.
You couldn't clear it.
Couldn't do anything. Couldn't wipe it. When I would sit there and let guys use my shirt sleeve or something to wipe it. And they go, hey, you can't do that. Yeah, I know.
Even when I fought John and took that knee, I remember asking for a towel to wipe my eyes.
Yeah.
Just because I was a little bit rattled and it was bleeding and I just wanted it out of my eyes. And they wouldn't even let me do that at all. I was like, damn. Now they're just giving out rags left and right.
But it makes sense. These are the things. Unfortunately, change is hard for everyone. And people are very, adept to saying, oh, we shouldn't change. Don't change that. Don't do that. It'll screw things up. When no, change is good. If it's for what's going to make things better for the fighters, better for the fans so the fight can go on, that's better for the promotion, then why not? What is a wet, rag or gauze going to do to help this fighter have an advantage over someone that just poked him in the eye? There's zero. It's so there's all kinds of things.
Anything is going to help us continue to maybe see some of these fights
exactly
that maybe you later earlier might not have.
We even brought in something that sometimes is in some places it's not allowed, but within the unified rules it is we brought in, if I fouled you, okay, and we came together, we clashed heads like I talked about, but it was you that got cut, not me. I have a little mark, but it's nothing. You have this big cut. Well, you've been altered in this fight unfairly.
Mm-hmm.
The blood coming down, for people that are out there that don't know, blood is not something you see through like water. It does get, it gets sticky and it's
tinted.
It glazes your eye kind of exactly. And it's got the iron burns your eye and everything. So all of it just leads to you having less capability. So we came up with, hey, when you have that type of situation, the referee can bring the cut man in, address that cut, make it as suitable as possible within a limited amount of time before it's the end of the round to get the fighter back to as good as they could be because they were injured off of what is truly a foul.
Right.
Okay. Not intentional, but it was a foul between the two fighters. So those are all good things for the fighters, for the fans, for the sport. This whole thing with the fingers in the eye. Look, gone absolutely. And I hear people all the time, well, his eyes were closed. Hey, I am telling you right now, it's not sometimes so much the scratch of the eye. It's the pressure of how far the eye is pushed back. Because when someone's pushing the eye back, it can do things. I've had fighters where I've looked at and said, hell, I think they can go. And they're like, man, I'm really having a hard time seeing it. Hey, okay, take your time. And it gets to that point where the doctor, everyone thinks the ringside physician is going to be able to come in and see this big problem. They're only going to see a big problem if it's incredibly big, okay? Because they can't see that scratch on the cornea. And putting the light into the fighter's eye is not a good thing because now what is the fighter seeing? These big blobs that are there, right? And so I've had fights where, they got stopped and the person went and they had a huge cut, going across their eye, but you couldn't see it just looking at him, but they did as soon as they put him under the lights in the right way. There it is. Hey, he's going to have some stuff done to his eye. The fighter wasn't, they weren't in any way trying to get out of the fight, but they were compromised to a point that they couldn't fight anymore. I've had fighters in the opposite where I believed they were compensated in a way as far as, I didn't think they should fight. And they're saying, I can see, John. And I'm going, you're fucking lying to me like my kids, right? And I understand what you're doing.
We'll do that too.
I understand what you're doing. And so I'll do things like I'll try to take more time for them because they'll say, I'm ready to go. Let's give it another second. And I'm not trying to give them another second just so, they're going to, change their mind. That's not it at all. I'm just thinking, give it more time so it'll clear out, hopefully more.
Right. I know you're more hurt than you're saying.
Exactly. And so, those are there for you to, try to, take apart in any way that you want to say what's right and wrong. But the real problem we're having with eye pokes is, first off, equipment wise, we can sit there and say, well, we need to change the shape of the gloves and all that stuff. Will it help? I think it might help some. It's definitely not going to eliminate the problem.
No.
MMA has got fingerless gloves, for the basic fact we have grappling involved. You got to be able to utilize your hands. It's not the same as a boxing glove. And so, even the changing of the gloves is not going to change, as far as how many times this occurs. It may change it a little as far as how many times, but it's absolutely still going to be part of our sport and in basically, let's say, ruining fights that people want to see. So I look and say, for the most part, I'm looking and saying we might want to have to put it on the officials who, trust me, I don't want the responsibility. Nobody does. But there comes that point where we've given them that responsibility of making these basic decisions. You're the sole arbiter. And so, like I said, 99.9% of the time we say it is accidental. And we sometimes have a fighter who gets multiple, pokes to the eye, and there's no point taken. And there comes a point where, you got to say, I can't do that. I have to make sure that the fight is as even as possible and as fair as possible for both fighters. And when one fighter is systematically gaining advantages based upon fouls, then you're not following what is the rules of this sport the way you need to. I'm not saying you're trying to do it, but I'm going to have to take something from you. But sometimes that's, that might not even be enough, but we've got
accidental or not, we have to address it.
Bingo. It's getting to that point. And really what I think hopefully it'll do is, instead of like saying with the equipment, I don't think the equipment will handle it. Fighters do handle things. It's very similar to what we just did with the grounded fighter.
Right.
Okay. When I put together that new grounded fighter rules, there was referees out there going, I don't like this. I think it's going to cause problems. It's going to be a safety issue. And it's worked very well. Okay.
The whole fucking job is a safety issue.
Well, exactly. it is. But, you look and you go, there's always.
I love that rule change. And I agree with you. We've seen a lot less issues.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the fighters.
In the 12-6 elbow.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about this is the most dangerous technique I've seen fucking 3 since effective ones since.
Yeah, it's funny because I was working Saturday night and this one guy used it, and when he got to mount, I went, "Okay, that hurts."
Yeah,
it's like,
okay,
that wasn't okay.
But it was 3 fights where it's been truly effective.
Exactly.
Okay, we all argued over this rule for a long time.
Positionally, it's limited.
It's hard.
Positionally,
it's really only mount, and our game is kind of evolved over time where we don't really hang out and mount that much anymore.
No,
because guys are athletes, they're explosive, the jiu-jitsu is really good. Mount's a really hard position to keep and punch. So
I agree. But you look and you go, hey, we've got to make it to where the fighters start to change. I put in a rule long ago. It was okayed in 2016, came into effect 2017, and that was the extended fingers. And I'm being honest, even I, as an official when I was working, and now that I'm back working again, I don't utilize that the way it needed to be utilized. I'm going to start doing it. And I don't want to be the only guy on an island doing it, but it is a foul to put your hands extended out with your fingers out towards someone's face. That's a foul. Now I can sit here and give you warnings, but how many am I going to give you? Well, I'm going to get to the point where I'm going to give you that one warning, and you continue to do it. You're the one that's creating the problem. So I need to now have it to where fighters are adjusting what they're doing.
They will too.
Yeah, absolutely. They will.
Fighters are smart.
Exactly.
And they don't want to lose points.
That's the whole point. They go, hey man, I can't lose a fight because this dickhead is going to be my referee. And I know he'll take points, for sticking my fingers out towards his face. You're going to be allowed to have your hands open when your hands are in towards your body and you want to, sit there and defend yourself. Absolutely. You can have your hands open and everything when you're in grappling situations, but in striking situations, we've got to make it to where the fighters are only putting a fist out towards their opponent instead of an open hand.
Right. Okay. I got 2 more before I let you go. And one of them's a little bit way out there, but there's a lot of people, and I've actually said it myself. And the more I listen to your conversation, I'm thinking I don't know, maybe I need to walk that back a little bit, but there is part of me that still believes it. In any other sport, we don't look at the intent of a penalty or foul when it comes time to I guess, divvy out the punishment for it. So, a running back runs by a linebacker goes to grab him and just happens to get a hold of his face mask. It wasn't intentional.
Yep.
But it's a penalty regardless, and there's going to be yards attached to that.
Yep.
Why is MMA so subjective?
As simple as I can make it for you. This is the same as we'll say that foul in football occurs. So that foul occurs, and it's a 15-yard penalty. We'll say it was it was an unintentional grab. It's 5 yards.
Mm-hmm.
It's an intentional grab. It's 15 yards. Right. So there's two differences as far as the way that it can be used as the penalty. All right. So you gain 5 yards, or you gain 15, or you lose if you're the defender. That's one type of foul. And I wish, and what we have in MMA is that's what our warnings are those 5, 10, 15 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Is we're trying to use verbiage to say, and when you see the referee stop the fight, because I'll make it as simple as you can. We have 3 different types of warnings, and people don't understand this, but I have what's called a silent warning, I have a soft warning, and I have a hard warning. And then I have point deductions, then I have disqualifications. So, most of the time people, when I say it's a silent warning, it's a silent warning, not to the fighters, they know, but it's silent to the crowd. The crowd doesn't even know it happened, mm-hmm. because they don't hear it. And I'm not making a gesture. I'm just leaning in, saying something real quick. And the only ones that hear it are the 2 fighters, and that's fine. Then there's the soft warning where I'll actually make a gesture. I'll say, hey, I'll come inside and say, hey, watch your head inside, and I'll smack myself on the forehead. So what does the person in the 25th row know? Oh, at least he fucking saw it. Okay. At least the dumbass saw it. He's, mm-hmm. And he said he did something about it. And then there's the hard warning where I'm going to stop the action of the fight. And I'm going to actually put my finger up and say, hey, you can't do this anymore. Blah, blah, and it's your last warning. Next time I'm going to start taking points, and you put them back to fighting. Those are your 3 types of warnings. So those are my 5, 10, and 15 yard penalties. The difference with MMA is when we take the point, it's like in football, when you see the quarterback dropping back to pass and he's in his own end zone and he throws the ball and it goes 85 yards in the air, and there's a pass interference, and they take the ball and they put it from the 5-yard line all the way down to the other 5-yard line. You just gain 90 yards.
Because it's so much more impactful in a fight than it is in, like, if it's a 5-yard penalty, fuck it. It might not even matter at the end of the game.
Bingo. That's the difference.
A point deduction likely changes
the, and especially, the course of the fight. Yeah, and because you can take a look, even a point deduction in boxing is not as sequential as far as the effect that it can have on the fight, like the Dober thing. It is.
I talked to Dober
MMA.
afterwards, and Dober said, I was like, I seen the point deduction, and Dober said it's 1-1 going into the 3rd round.
He's right.
He loses a point.
Oh, the best I can do is a draw. Best I can do if I don't finish this. That's right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right, last one.
Yeah,
this is a funny one. I've been honking this horn for a long time. This, like, the first time it ever popped up, and I think Kansas tried it a little bit with the open scoring. And yeah, you know exactly where I'm going.
That's all right.
I love open scoring only because again, we're the only sport in the world other than boxing where you don't know the score of the contest that's happening till it's over. It'd be wild to watch basketball games and not have any idea what the score is.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Or a football game, like, what the hell is the score here? Or golf. Yeah. And you just, nobody keeps scoring at the end. You're like, well, Tiger wins again. You're like, shit, I thought I was ahead.
Yeah.
Do you believe that it would be that impactful in the results of the fights and that guys would really coast?
I can tell you that I've used it in promotions, and we've tried it, we tested it out and things, and what I've seen happen is, not every time, but as soon as you get someone that gets up in the fight, it's almost, you can tell that the person is just, they have a better skill set than their opponent, but their opponent is a tough person, and so they lose the first round. And then they come out in the second, and again, they lose the second round. And sometimes, it's by, a good margin. And then comes the 3rd round, and this guy's trying. He's trying to get after it. And now his opponent, instead of just fighting, is becoming very defensive. And when I say defensive, you understand what it's like to try to fight someone that's just trying to be defensive.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's a bitch. And
it's not fun to watch.
That's the other part. And it becomes very boring for the fans, and so you're affecting the fight in a way that I'm not saying the person wouldn't have known it anyways, but now that they know, oh hell, I'm already 3 points up, and this is the third round. I won one, 10-9. I won the other one 10-8. All I got to do is get through this. I've got my win. I've seen it happen, and that is my major problem with open scoring.
Well, I definitely don't want to see any of that. But in my head, what I think about is like John Jones Gustafson, the first one.
Oh my God, yeah.
Everyone's waiting for like that fourth round score to come out. And it's
absolutely
like, bam, like holy shit, they're 2-2. Yep. And then this last round is just this. I don't know. In my head, it sounds like that would be super cool.
We see that all the time, and this is, I look at like your job now as, as that person, I think they need to go and have someone, not the commentators that are there, not the Joe Rogans and the DCs, because they got too much to do as far as talking about the fight and everything, but have someone like you sit there and understand the criteria of the judging, and you score, and then let them come to you. Hey, you know what? Let's go to Anthony Smith real quick. Fourth round. Right. How did you have it scored? I have it this way, and now it's 2-2 coming into all the rounds been 10-9 coming into the fifth round. Whoever wins this round is going to be the world champion. That's right. And that's a good thing because you're knowledgeable and but it's not for sure. And that's a good thing.
And you got to be clear about that. Yeah, this guy might not know what the hell he's talking about.
That's a good. Well, and,
you can't be mad at me afterwards.
It could be that it's just you're absolutely right, and somehow the other part of it is very difficult to have people understand, and it's the judging. The judging now is so much better than it was in the past, and I know the judges get killed all the time, but what you as an analyst, I would tell you need to do. I've done this with other analysts. Is hey, Anthony, I want you to go and sit and watch this next fight. Sit right near that judge and judge the fight, because you are going to see an absolutely different fight in that one seat than the judge that's across the way. And if it's a close fight, right? There's times when you're going to see angles that you see something land, you see it's clean, and he doesn't. And there's times when you're going to see something, you see a movement, you think, shit, did that hit him or not? And you can't say whether it truly hit the person or not based upon the angle, based upon the referee and the way, all these different things.
So if you don't know, exactly. It didn't happen.
Exactly. And
what I found recently?
Sometimes those are what the difference of why a judge goes one way or the other.
Yeah, it's one shot sometimes.
That is.
I've found that since I retired and I haven't been watching fights as a competitor, and I've only been doing it from an analyst, like from an analyst point of view, because even if I'm not working the event, I'm going to come on here and talk about it.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that my view on some of these fights has changed. And actually some of these really controversial judges' decisions, I'm like,
not too controversial.
I'm kind of with them. I'm kind of like, I'm actually finding myself agreeing with judges more now that I'm looking at it from a different lens.
Absolutely.
Than I was before. So definitely in the last 6 months, if you take all the controversial ones, I would just guess I'm probably with them on 90% of them.
Yeah.
Which is, that's kind of a fascinating thing to me.
No, it's the truth. And, we in our business, they use the word robbery way too much.
Yeah.
Look, it's and there's many
like
times.
Cheeto and Amen Zahabi, people kept saying, this is huge robbery. Like, you can't have a robbery in a close fight.
No.
There's no such thing.
No, that fight was absolutely so. And okay, did one judge go with Cheeto? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And two judges, that tells you how close
There's no robbery in a split decision.
How's there a robbery? I'm not saying that, look, judges can't get things wrong. Referees can get things wrong. It's just, we're human. But for the most part, and I will tell you, this is one of the things that does bother me. All these people out here saying they don't even care. Those sons of bitches care more than you will ever know. They do more work than anyone realizes. After every fight, they get together right after that fight and are talking about that fight that they just did while the next fight is walking out. They're talking
that's the conversation I want to be a part of.
Oh yeah.
Or not even be a part of. I just want to hear it.
That's okay.
And just say,
you should.
Hey, okay, explain that to me. And even if I agree, like,
that's all right.
What about this round? I think
but that's how you learn. And that's where you get the different, that's where you start to come together. And then look at all the calls. What you need to do is, and I'll invite you when I have I'm on a call with an athletic commission that doing training for MMA. You need to sit on that call and listen to people, and then listen to all the other people that will come in and say, no, that is not. I want you to think about the criteria. You've got to do it this way. And you have this one outlier who's out there going, oh no, it should be this way. And you'll see the group come together and go, no, I want, what is this state? And, oh, I see, you're right. Okay.
I
and
would love to be a part of that post-fight judges thing.
I will,
and not even, I would hope that they would trust me enough to where, okay, he's not going to be like, whoever said this.
Well, no, you've been mean to him this whole time, so they're not going to trust you. I mean,
I've never called them out individually, number one. And when they've done a good job, I've said it. But I've been critical because this is, it's been my passion. It's been my career too. But I'm critical of referees. But I'm also critical. I've been critical of Herb Dean.
Sure.
And then actually Mark Smith, I've been really critical of Mark Smith a couple times.
Okay.
And then him and I stand at the Apex and talk for 30 minutes about it afterwards.
Absolutely.
Like I have no issue when he does a good job. I think Mark Smith did a great job right there.
So
I've been fair, but I would love to be able to stand in that conversation and just listen to it and like ask a couple questions. And then later on, when people are wondering, like, what the fuck was this guy looking at? Like, I'll tell you exactly what the fuck they were looking at.
There you go. And
like,
that's maybe
not the individual person, but I can say one judge was, he's seen it from this point of view, she's seen it from this point of view, and they were sitting in two completely different places.
Yeah.
Like, I think I don't want, because you've seen some commentators say, well, I think that we need to put a microphone and a camera in these people's face and ask them some questions. I don't necessarily want them to out themselves like that, because this is a listen, you get it. This is a fucking toxic place with fans, and you'll get death threats and people sending shit to your house. I don't want that.
Oh, and
But if you could have someone that trusts them, or that they would trust, that's not going to like out their name and exactly what what's going on. If you could say, if we're curious of what the hell they're looking at, I'll fucking tell you. Like, here's what they seen. Now, agree with it or disagree with it, but there's at least a thought process behind it.
That's exactly it. It's not what people think, not at all. And it's one of those. It's very difficult. It's easy to sit in your living room and go, well, I think and when you're wrong, there's no accountability, so it doesn't matter. You're, okay, right. I was wrong. So what? I was wrong. I don't agree with it. That's fine. When you put your name on that card and you hand that thing to somebody and they take it, you're going, shit, I hope everyone saw what I saw.
Okay. Yeah, it's stressful, I'm sure.
It is. It is incredible. You've seen a lot of people say, I can't tell you how many referees and judges I've talked off the cliff of quitting the sport based upon them taking abuse because fans are upset. And it's okay for the fans to be upset, but it's also important that those people, those referees, learn, hey, people are going to dislike you all the time. I always say, look at 50% of the fans want fighter A, 50% want fighter B. If you in any way do anything that they can say, I think you made this call and you took a point from my guy and you're the goddamn reason, it's going to be there. And okay, hate me. It's okay.
Well, I think a lot of the hate, honestly, recently has had such a significant uptick is like because of the gambling. The gambling part of the game has gotten significantly higher.
Yes,
so
it has.
The consequences for fans are higher because gambling is such a large part of the sport now.
That's
I really think that's why the hate is there.
I think you hit a nail on the head there. There's no doubt about it.
So, all right, dude. John, I appreciate the fuck out of you. I've always had such a huge amount of respect for you. You've always been super kind to me, and you've always let me get punched in the face exactly the amount of times that were possible. You've always been good to me. I've never had any issues.
I do have a training thing that's in January that it covers. It's not just me, but it's MMA, boxing, and bare knuckle boxing. You are more than welcome to come. I'll let you come in and be part of that class if you want to hear about judging and even reffing, so you know more about it. Please, love to have.
I would love to. It's like a weekend deal.
It'll be a weekend, second week of January in Vegas at the New Orleans.
Dude, I'm in.
Okay.
I would love to do that. You make sure you keep in contact.
I will give you. I will send you all the information.
Perfect. All right, man. You take care of yourself, and I appreciate the hell out of you.
Appreciate you too. You take care.
We partner with HomaFight Picks to get you the most accurate and well-researched fight predictions. They do all the legwork so you can focus on winning. Picks will be sent directly to your phone via text or email. It's totally up to you. The second we upload them. Use code Lionheart to get 7 free days at winnable.com/HOF picks. That's WINIBLE.com/HOF picks.
With Anthony Smith.